Hey everyone, welcome back to another live stream with me, Ryan from Complete Test Success. Okay, so today we're looking at IELTS Writing Task 2. I have an advantages and disadvantages question for you. So if you have attended these live streams before, you know how they work. Basically, I'm going to give you a question and together we're going to go through the different parts of the essay, making sure that we can get a high score. You're going to share your ideas with me. You're going to share your writing with me. I'm going to give you feedback. If you're doing anything wrong, I'll tell you. Make a note of any mistakes I mentioned so that you can work on those and improve those areas. And that's essentially going to improve your score. So that's what we're here to do. We're going to write an essay together. You're going to share your work with me, and I'm going to give you feedback. Hi, Amank. I just saw your message. Now I didn't see it when you sent it. XIX, good to see you here. Welcome. Hi, Amank. So you obviously figured out the time on YouTube and Facebook. Like it knows where you are, so it converts the time to your own time zone. So whatever country you have set your YouTube account to, the time of the live streams show up in the correct times for your time zone. Okay, so normally we start with the paraphrase, but let's do it a little bit differently today. I want to just jump straight into the ideas. So for this question, we need 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages. So we need 4 ideas in total. What I want to do is I want you just to share your ideas with me. So what ideas can we use for this question? So the question says, some teachers show movies to their students for educational purposes. What are the and disadvantages of showing movies to children during lessons? So this is the question that we're focusing on today. Today's lesson is based on this question. And yeah, that's pretty much it right now. Have a think about it. Send me your ideas in the comments and I'll have some feedback for you. Keep in mind, your ideas have to be relevant, as in they have to be about what the question asked you to talk about, and they have to be specific. If you give me a vague idea, such as, it's good for the children, that's not an acceptable idea. Like, it's good. That just means the advantage is there's an advantage. No, but just saying it's good isn't enough. Why is it good? Specifically, what is the good thing that you want to talk about? So, yep, have a think about that question. And then in the comments, tell me what main ideas can we use? What advantages and what disadvantages? Make sure your ideas are relevant and specific. And of course, if you share some ideas that are not relevant or some ideas that are not specific, it's not the end of the world. I'll just show you, like, this idea is not appropriate. I'll tell you why. And of course, just try to learn from our mistakes. Crazy Chess World, hi to you. Welcome. Hi, Oligbeg. Good to see you back. Mandeep, good to see you here again. Hi, Mohammed. Well, sir, in my last exam, I got 6.5 in writing and speaking. Can you please tell me where I'm lacking? That I got 0.5 band less as my requirement is 7 bands. Yeah, so I mean, it could be your task achievement. It could be your coherence and cohesion. Could be your vocab. Could be your grammar. Like, we don't know. What we know for sure is that 2 of them were a band 7 and 2 of them were a 6. Or potentially 3 of them were a 7 and 1 of them was a 6. So yeah, by participating in today's lesson, I'll be able to point out some mistakes that you're making, for sure. I'll be able to show you some mistakes that you're making. So yeah, just get involved. I'll tell you anything I see you doing wrong, and you'll be able to take it from there. Okay, so we have some from Crazy Chess World. One of the advantages of showing movies to children has to do with the fact that they can learn the subject more easily if they are visual learners. Okay, great. So there's one advantage. Let's add that. I can make that. That's a bit cumbersome. Visual learners can learn more effectively. Okay, great. So that's our first advantage. So we need one more advantage and we need two disadvantages. So this idea that Chess Crazy World has shared, it's relevant because it's about the question and it's specific, not just that, it's easier, but that it's specifically easier for people who are visual learners. So that's very specific. That's perfect. Audio visual has a great impact on children's mind. So in order to perform well in academics, showing movies to the pupils is an excellent way. So unfortunately now, Amang, this is a vague idea. This is a vague idea. So you said it has a great impact, but we don't know what the impact is. What is the impact? So, and that might explain why you're getting, a 6.5 in writing, because vague ideas typically result in a band 6 for task achievement. So if you're starting with a vague idea, it's difficult to get a band 7 because it's the development of your ideas that brings you from a 6 up to a 7. But if you start with a vague idea, if you try to explain it, so you try to say like, why does it have a great impact? You end up listing lots of specific ideas. So think more specifically, what is the one great impact or two great impacts that you want to talk about? So it needs to be more specific. This is vague. Hi, Nanbut. Welcome. Good to see you here. Miriam, it makes the learning process fun. Okay, perfect. So we have two advantages. And it makes the learning process, I'm going to put down enjoyable. Fun would be a little bit informal. Okay, so the main advantages of doing this are that visual learners can learn more effectively and it makes the learning process more enjoyable, whereas the most significant disadvantages are, okay, so now we still need disadvantage A and disadvantage B. So we need two more ideas. But yeah, we're on track, looking good so far. There are some teachers who try to show films for educational objectives. Okay, so that would be a paraphrase. There are a few merits that they can learn graphically, but drawback are that is time consuming and affect the eyes. It's time consuming. It's time consuming. Okay, so we can use time consuming and it affects the eyes. Okay, we could use those. Yeah, good. The disadvantages are that it takes a lot of time, or it's time consuming. Let's use yours. It is, or doing this is time consuming. This is time consuming, doing this. Yeah, it is time consuming. And it is bad for the children's eyes. Okay. Okay, that works. Good. So let's have a look. It helps to motivate them. Yes, definitely. The main advantage is they may provide examples from different cultures and perspectives. So is that two ideas, different cultures and perspectives, or is that one idea? And typically what I try to avoid is the word and, because if a culture and a perspective, if that's not the same thing, now you have two ideas and you need to explain both of them. And you're not going to have as much development because you're explaining more ideas. So in this question, we already have to have 4 ideas. And, our essay is only going to be about 280 words. So I would say, let's just talk about different cultures or different perspectives. One, not both. Moreover, audiovisual experiences from films are much easier than reading books alone. They're easier. So that's probably, it's easier to learn. We had that idea already. Yeah, good. And but the advantages of displaying videos during class are it helps to attract the full attention of the students to the lectures and can be used as a teaching tool to promote learning. So the second one, the full attention, that it gets the students' full attention, yes. And then the second one, it's a teaching tool to promote learning. That one to me is a bit vague. In what way does it promote learning? So I'd like something more specific with your second idea, but the first idea is good. Advantages are students can learn different cultures and learn different languages. Okay, good. And disadvantages are time consuming and students need more practical skills. The more practical skills, you're making a comparison, but I'm not sure what you're comparing. More practical skills than what? So I'm not sure what your comparison is. So all your ideas look good, but the last one, I need a bit more detail to fully understand it. Can you teach me how to paraphrase an essay easily and effectively? Yes, of course. And actually, we need to do that right now. So essentially, when you're paraphrasing a question, you just need to repeat this part. So what did the question say? So I'm just going to copy and paste this just to show you, to what extent that needs to be done. Is this text? Let me make it a little bit bigger. I'm not sure if that's a bit small. Okay. Okay. So this is the paraphrase. This is the sentence we're looking at now. And I've just copied and pasted what the question said. Now, the question has to have, our paraphrase has to have the exact same meaning. If we change the meaning, that's not an effective paraphrase. If we change the meaning, then how does the reader know what the essay is about? Our essay is about what the question is about. That's why we repeat it. So the question is about this, and our essay is about the same thing. So it has to have the same meaning, and it has to be clear. Okay, so that's the goal. When we're writing a paraphrase, it has to be clear, and it has to have the same meaning. So after that, once we have the same meaning and it's clear, the next most important thing is that we try to change the vocab. If I just copy and paste it, it shows no understanding of the text. It shows no ability in English. So we're going to try and change it a bit, but we're not going to go overboard. And there will be times where I don't know another word with the same meaning. And if I don't know another word, it's okay to copy it. Like, the word some. What's another word that means some? I'm not really sure. So let's do this instead. There are some teachers who show films during their lessons. So instead of saying to their students, let's say during their lessons. So it's the children for educational purposes. So let's say as a way of educating their students. There. So now there's some stuff I wasn't able to change, like the word some. I didn't know how to change that. The word teachers, we can say educators, but it's not very common. I mean, normally we just call a teacher a teacher. So what I'm worried about, if I change it to educators, is it exactly the same? Is there a little bit of a difference between a teacher and an educator? I'm not sure. So I'm not going to change it. So I've used the grammar here. Instead of some teachers show, I said there are some teachers who show. So I've just grammatically changed that, but I've copied some teachers directly from the question. I've copied the word show directly from the question. During their lessons as a way of educating the students. So students and students came from the question. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that as a paraphrase. Like, you don't need to change every word. It doesn't need to be completely different. All you need to do is show that you understand the language and that you can manipulate it to some extent. So yeah, changing the vocab is a good idea. Using different grammar structures is a good idea, but don't go overboard. It's not important to change everything. And also another issue is that some students, they dedicate too much time to the paraphrase, and it's the least important sentence. So is it clear? Good. Does it have the same meaning? Good. Change as much as you can with the vocab, but don't worry about changing everything. In most questions, you'll need to copy one or two words. That's fine. That's not a bad thing. So, that's kind of the main problem students have, is they try to change everything. It's not necessary, and it's very difficult, and it's time consuming as well. So yeah, don't worry too much about changing everything. Okay, so right there, what we have is the introduction completely finished. So we have paraphrased the question in the first sentence. Then we said what our 4 ideas are. We've mentioned our 2 advantages and our 2 disadvantages. Okay, so now we're going to have 2 body paragraphs. So let's say something like this. The first most noticeable, let's say the first major advantage of watching movies in school is that, and now we're just going to repeat the idea again. So what was the first one? Is that visual learners can more effectively, is that it aids visual learners to understand the lesson. Okay, so all I've done is I've taken that first idea, visual learners can learn more effectively. I've repeated it, and now we're going to develop it. All right, so let me just kind of get myself a little bit more organized here, because one thing you need to be careful with, and it's something that students get wrong a lot, is they forget to talk about the topic of the question. So yeah, you need to talk about visual learners, but you can't just talk about what is a visual learner, or why do we care about visual learners. We need to talk about how watching movies at school helps visual learners. So we're trying to connect those 2 things. And that's why it's very important that you don't forget what the question is about when you are developing your ideas. Whatever you say about your idea still has to be related to how your idea and how the topic of the question are connected. So giving explanations or giving examples. All right. So that's my next task for you all right now. How can we develop this idea that it aids visual learners in understanding lessons? So what I want you to do is please write how you would develop this idea. Share it with me in the comments. And when I find something suitable, I'll add it to the screen. And of course, I'll give you feedback on whatever you share with me. Okay, Mandeep. Second disadvantage is harmful for their health watching a long time. So I think that's probably what we had already about bad for your eyes. So yeah, that's fine. Yep, that's definitely okay. Yeah, for sure. All my friends from Hello Talk. Hi, Rich. Good to see you here. Some pupils are shown films by their teachers in order to educate them. Yeah, so yeah, using a passive structure, that works. Good. Can we use advantages and pros, or benefits, merits and disadvantages as cons and drawbacks and demerits? Yeah, merits and demerits isn't really something that we would say. It's more of an old-fashioned phrase, but definitely pros, cons, benefits, drawbacks. The thing with pros and cons, we usually use it as like a fixed phrase. There are pros and cons. We don't really use them separately. So there are 2 pros of this situation. We wouldn't normally say that. We'd more likely say the there are two benefits, there are two advantages. When we say pros and cons, it's usually used as a phrase. So, like, this situation has both pros and cons. And we use pros and cons together as a phrase, but not separately as pros and cons. So you'd be less likely to see that. Some tutors show films to their pupils for educational purposes. So again, tutors and teachers it's not exactly the same. The rest of it's fine, but just make sure you have a capital letter at the start. So the word some should be a capital S. Musa, hi to you. The primary pros of displaying movies at school is a main source of captivatism. Is that a word? No, it's not. I thought it was a word I hadn't heard before. Okay. So it captivates to develop. Just say it captivates the students. But on the other hand, students become used to learning through movies and they go far away from books. So they become less interested in books, let's say. So for it seems like you're going to have to improve your vocab, Musa. You're inventing words, you're creating words, and you're using vocab inaccurately. You're making yourself clear. I understand exactly what you're saying, but for the accuracy part of your vocab score, that's going to be a problem. So definitely for you, the accuracy of your vocab would be something I would recommend that you work on. Hi, Dimitri. This is because their brains are designed in that way, and any information will be understood easier when it is shown with visuals, images, or video clips. Okay, good. Hi, Salvi. So let me take Dimitri's here, and we'll add that to the screen. Actually, I give me a moment. I need to go into YouTube and find it. So passive structure isn't really necessary here because we're talking about the people. We're talking about the people, so putting the information as the focus isn't necessary because we're already talking about the people, so that they will understand any information easily when it is shown with visuals, images, or video clips. So how long is this? 46, slightly short, but to be honest, good enough. Okay, now we move on to the second idea. So the next, now we're saying, okay, the other main benefit is that, and what did we say? I can't even, it makes more enjoyable. Okay, is that students generally enjoy this more than studying from textbooks, course books. Okay, so now we have our next idea and we need to decide how are we going to develop that. Okay, so again, let me just make sure you can see the question at the same time. So we're now focused on our second advantage. I'm just going to move the introduction out of the way here so we can see everything. Okay, so we're on the second part of our body paragraph. We've moved on to our second idea. and we need to decide how are we going to develop that. So same task again. How can we develop this idea, but now we're focusing on a new idea? Okay, so good job there, Dimitri. Hi, Salve. Asru. The first benefit of watching films in school is that it assists visual learners in consuming the lesson. We wouldn't use those words together to consume a lesson. So consume would be more like eat or something like that. Properly, as these students can grasp things more quickly when they watch something rather than just listening or attending lessons. This is very good as well. This is really solid development. So yeah, very good, Asru. So I like the quickly part. I'm going to add that any information more quickly and easily. So it's not just that everything you've said is good, but I'll just add that little extra bit to what we have. Miriam, visual learners help them to concentrate more by focusing on what they see. So visual learning helps them to concentrate more by focusing on what they see. Yep, good. Again, it would be a little bit short, but combined with the other things that Asru said and that Dimitri said, that would be good. The other thing, though, is what we must remember is that we have 4 ideas in this essay. So there isn't really enough time for more development than this. You need to be careful with that. If you end up developing your ideas too much, then you run out of time and you're not going to be able to correct as many vocab or grammar mistakes or that type of thing. So we're trying to find that balance where we're developing our ideas enough for a high score, but not too much that we're going to end up with more vocab and grammar mistakes. So yes, everything you've said is perfect, but I'm not going to add it to the question on the screen. So Preet, for educational objectives, some teachers teach their pupils through films. For educational, no, objectives would be more, no, because you're focusing on the end goal with the objective, but it's more like why. A purpose is more why rather than what's the specific goal at the end. So just educational purposes would be better. Everything else works though. Everything else is good. Asru says, some students, for example, watch educational YouTube channels which aid them to learn the textbook concepts even better. I'd like the example to show that it works rather than just they're doing it because it works, but like what's the outcome? So can we change this in a way where not just we're saying it works, but making some kind of comparison between, what happens when they try to learn from a textbook, what happens when they try to learn from a YouTube video, and how is that a benefit? Also keep in mind, we're talking about movies, so just YouTube videos wouldn't be necessarily the case. I know down here we said visuals, images, and video clips, but we're just describing more generally. How these people learn. But what we have to remember is that it's specifically that they're watching movies. So they're not watching video clips; they're watching movies in the lessons. So that's, make sure you're not moving away from that and just talking more generally about visual, like videos or whatever. Okay. Mandeep, the main benefit of watching movies in school is that visual learners can learn effectively. This is because most students learn easily whenever they see something on screen and remember for I know YouTube. Go over to Facebook, Mandeep. This live stream is on my Facebook channel as well, and they don't have that limitation. So I think we've talked about this before. I feel like this is something we've talked about previously. Maybe you don't have a Facebook account or something, but send it to me in 2 bits. You can send me the first bit and then the second bit, like I had. Like Osru sent me the first half here, and the second half here, and the third bit here. So, like I'll get it all. I'll get it all anyway. Okay. But visual learning is becoming more important as many more online courses are now popular in many countries around the world. No, because here we're not talking about why teachers are showing their movies in the lessons. So no, it's not about learning online. It's not about online courses. It's specifically teachers in the classroom showing movies to their students. Okay. Display videos helps pupils to understand the lesson, makes the classes more interesting. Yes, so those are ideas, but those would be the main ideas. Those would have to be the main ideas. So then we'd have, our first advantage might be they understand the lesson more easily and the lessons are more interesting. And that's kind of what we have here already. So when we're writing our paragraph, we have the first idea you've mentioned, but we develop it, and now we have the second idea and we need to develop it. So your ideas are fine, but you just need to recognize which ones are main ideas and which ones are something different. For instance, in some countries, video display classes have 90% attendance compared to non-visual display classes. So again, now you're not talking about what the question is about. So really, it seems like you didn't understand the question. So imagine, kids in a classroom and the teacher turns on a movie for them. Like what, in what way is that good? In what way is that bad? It may help to change daily curriculum. Why is that a good thing? That's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It changes the daily curriculum, but I could say, one person might say that's good and one person might say that's bad. So you need to tell me more clearly, why is that good? And at the moment, I'm not sure why you think that changing the curriculum is good. Hi, Rajat. This is because films are designed in a way that the climaxes of these movies entertain and educate students. I would say it's a bit vague. They're designed in a way that the climaxes. What I'm not sure. You see, you might be talking about something that's appropriate, but I don't really know what you mean at the moment. I don't know how is the climax. I know I can imagine how a climax is entertaining, but how is that educational? Like, how is that educating them? I'm not sure. So at the moment, I wouldn't use those ideas. I'd need to know more clearly what you have in mind, what you're planning. Asru, another positive outcome of this approach is that it makes the whole experience more enjoyable for the students, as films are dynamic and use many graphics, maybe effects. These really make the lesson less. Yeah, so everything you're saying so far looks good. I'll just wait for the next comment. Miriam, when students watch a movie, because they use all their senses, they can imagine better. They feel a sense of joy and satisfaction, and it makes learning process easy. You're kind of listing things. They can imagine better. That's one thing. They feel a sense of joy. That feels like another thing. They feel satisfaction. That feels like another thing. They can learn more easily. That feels like another thing. So I feel like you're just kind of listing different points. It's not really cohesive, and there isn't a clear logical connection between each point. So no, that's not going to work. That's not going to be suitable for this one. Okay. So Musa, moreover, learn from movies is playing a vital role in children, especially for preschool learners. For preschool learners have proved effective because by watching movies, they do not feel bored. Okay, so that's kind of just repeating what we said. We've said that they enjoy it more, and then you say they enjoy it more because they don't feel bored. But that's kind of the same thing. They enjoy it more. It's good because they enjoy it more, and then and then you're just kind of saying they don't feel bored. So it's essentially you're repeating the same point, but with different vocab, and that doesn't work. That's not suitable. For example, in the USA, many teachers show films in schools to teach their students more effectively. too vague. So we want to say that they enjoy it more. So we need to talk about that point that they enjoy it more. So here, it's more effective, but we haven't said anything about they enjoy it more. So that's not suitable. Movies produced by Sesame Street, for instance, are not only recreational but also educational for students, and a lot of British teachers use these films in their classes. But again, are they enjoying it more? Or what's happening to the students? Why is it working? So I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this point myself. I'm going to develop it for you guys here. So the other main benefit is that students generally enjoy this more than studying from course texts, from course books. So what are we doing? We're comparing watching a movie with, sitting down and studying from a course book. So okay, because students usually study from textbooks, they get tired of this type of learning. So watching a movie is a novelty that engages the students to fully focus on what they are learning. Something like that. So I'm trying to make that connection between watching the movie and more enjoyable and how that helps them to learn. Right. So that there to me makes a stronger connection between watching a movie, it being enjoyable, and that being educational. So there, I'm happier with that as a development. If anybody's got any questions about that, about what I've said to develop it, please go ahead and ask. If you think I've made a mistake or something's not good about that, please go ahead and let me know. And that there is 98 words. So that's good enough. So that would be body paragraph 1 finished. So let me just move the introduction back up here so it looks a bit more, a bit better organized. Okay, so far we have introduction, body paragraph 1 finished. And from there, we need to move on to the next body paragraph, which is going to be about the disadvantages. Now, it should be down here. It should be down here, but just to keep everything on screen, I'll move it down later. So I'm going to put it at the top so we can just kind of see it for now. So this is going to be body paragraph 2. Just to make that clear, it's not going above the introduction. I'm putting it here so we can look at the question and the paragraph at the same time. Disadvantages. So what did we say? I can't remember. Time consuming is that it takes up a lot of time. Okay. So this is what we're doing next. We need to develop that idea. So same as before, how can we develop that? Think about it. Share your how you think you would develop it with me in the comments, and then as always, I'll have some feedback for you then. Okay, so lesson becomes interactive and students enjoy the learning process and do not feel bored and remember things in a better way. So again, you're just kind of listing different things. So it's more interactive so they don't feel bored. That makes sense. It's more interactive so they don't feel bored. And then they remember things in a better way. Like, why are they remembering things in a better way? Because they're not bored. So there is no there. I get it, but you're not making that connection. So like what I've said, they don't feel bored, so they're paying more attention. Because they're not bored, they're more focused on the information instead of daydreaming during the class. So yes, they will learn in a better way, but tell me more specifically, what is that better way, or why does that happen, or what's the connection with not feeling bored and learning in a better way? So make that connection clearer. So you kind of have all the information there. You're giving me all the information, but you're not showing me how they're connected. So that's one thing that you could improve on. Mandeep, sorry, I gave the example for first advantage by mistake. Yeah, no problem at all. So, for example, in the USA, teachers show films in schools to teach their students more effectively. So, in the example, I prefer if you were able to say how it worked. So it's like you might say, for example, some students find it difficult to follow the lessons when the teacher uses the textbook, but as soon as the teacher shows them a movie, they're able to follow what the teacher's been trying to teach them in a much shorter length of time. So making the connection between the people not watching the movie and then the people watching the movie, and how is that better? So that connection would be better if you could include that connection in the example. Asru, the first disadvantage of showing movies in classes is that it requires more time, as teachers have to set up projectors and sound systems in the classroom. Yeah, so that's definitely a start. I don't think it's long enough, but we could definitely use that as part of it, and then we would need to say something else as well. Okay, so again, let me jump in. I'm going to take that from Osruz again. So like I said, like this would need to be strong there. No. This would need to be about 50 words long, and it's only 40 at the moment. So we need more. We need about another 10 words. So let's just see what someone else comes up with, and we'll add that to it. Oh, you have more yourself, Azru. Moreover, they have to make sure that every light goes off before starting the movie. I think we're kind of clutching at straws here. Like I can see how setting up projectors and sound systems takes time. I'm sorry, Azru. I just think turn off the light. Like think it doesn't. It's not a very strong argument. Like they have to turn off the light. That's essentially takes a second. They could get another student to do it for them. I'm not going to add that bit. It's just not the strongest argument. It's definitely not as strong as the previous thing you said with setting up the projectors and the sound systems and that. Okay, Facebook user. The other main benefit is that students generally enjoy this more than studying from course books, while only engaging with textbooks, comma. So you've used while, so you need a comma. While only engaging in textbooks, comma, pupils feel exhausted, comma, whereas movies tend to be produced in a way that requires less physical exertion. Physical exertion, no. Physical exertion is like, doing exercise, running, climbing, something like that. Whereas, in a classroom, students would be sitting down. So it wouldn't be, no, not physical exertion, which ensures that students derive pleasure from lessons since they don't feel tired. So no, we wouldn't instantly say not being tired means that you're enjoying something. You know, like you could be watching a super boring movie. You don't like, I guess it would make you tired. But no, there isn't a connection between those two things. Like I don't feel tired because, and now I'm enjoying myself. I wouldn't connect those two things. I don't think they're very, very closely connected. Because classes have limited time and teachers have some special lesson plans to follow, so movies are sometimes time consuming and maybe waste of time. No. You need to show how they're wasting time. Not so what you're doing, and this is something that students often do. You're talking about the main idea. So you're trying to tell me why teachers don't want to waste time. And basically what you've done is you forgot that we still need to talk about the topic, right? So you've gone outside the context. Now you're just talking about wasting time. Teachers hate wasting time because they have so much to do. They have a curriculum to follow. If they don't follow the curriculum, they'll get in trouble. But no, we're not talking about why they don't want to waste time. We want to talk about why watching movies in the classroom is a waste of time, or not necessarily a waste of time. We said time consuming, not a waste of time. So why is it time consuming to watch the movies in the classroom? Not why do teachers not want to do something that's time consuming, or why do teachers not have a lot of time to play around with? So no, that wouldn't be suitable. You are talking about the main idea, which is what you need to do, but you must talk about the main idea within the context of the question. So don't forget what the question is about when you're writing your development. Rajat, in general, the average length of movies is 2 or 3 hours, whereas a lecture a lecture would be at university, not school. So a lesson lasts for a maximum of 1 hour, which means they spend 1 hour extra learning the same lesson. I'm not going to take that. I feel like what's to say, they might watch the movie in 2 days. So maybe they watch 1 hour today and 1 hour the next lesson. What's to say that what they learn in those 2 hours is less than what they would learn if the teacher was speaking? So I need you to tell me, I'm not saying your idea is wrong, but I need you to explain to me why an hour of the movie would teach the students less than an hour of the teacher, directly, like talking to the students or following a course book or whatever else it might be. So I need you to make that clearer for me. As a result, there may be fewer discussions and explanations in the class. Therefore, some students may not get the right conclusion of that lesson. So this doesn't feel like we're talking about time consuming either. Okay, so that's the last comment. And we're coming up to the hour as well. And I need to go collect my daughter from school. So let's finish up here. Set up protection in the classroom. And after the lesson, the teacher also needs to tidy everything away, which can be difficult to do before the next lesson starts. Something like that. It might not be fantastic, but we got the job done. And that's probably a bit long, so that's not ideal either. But there. Let's remove that bit. Now, I would never delete something like that. If you're in the IELTS test and you've already written it, I would never recommend reducing the word count. If you've already written it, you've already invested that time in it, and it's wrong. But what I'm trying to show you is more like the length that you would aim for, rather than trying to write something way longer than you need. Okay. Now, obviously, we didn't finish this, so there would be one more idea here. We would develop that. So the extra idea that we mentioned in our introduction, bad for their eyes, and we'd say, and the second disadvantage is that it's bad for their eyes. And we would continue by explaining that idea, developing that idea. And then we would still need to write the conclusion. However, we're just running out of time. today. So we'll just wrap it up there. I'll look at the rest of your comments and we'll leave it there. Asru, another negative outcome of projecting movies. No, it's necessary. It doesn't have to be projecting them, watching movies, say, in classes, is that it is detrimental to pupils' eyes due to the blue light that comes from the movie screens. Good. Yeah. Because movies have some extra messages to convey, it can be time consuming. Okay, so it's not as focused. Yeah, that would definitely work. It's not as focused as a teacher's lesson because they're talking about many different aspects of life, not just exactly the one thing that the teacher is trying to teach. Good. The second disadvantage would be that it is more expensive because schools might need to build with LED TV as well as internet connection. Yep. So more expensive. That wouldn't fit with the essay we were writing. So we'd have to remove the idea that it's bad for your eyes, and we could put that in instead. But yeah, that's definitely a disadvantage. The first main drawback of showing movies in school is that it requires some time, as students have to sit for a long time in order to understand fully lessons. So you're not really comparing a lesson where they're watching a movie with a lesson where they're not watching a movie. So they're still going to have to go into the classroom. They're still going to have to sit down. So whether they're watching a movie or not, they're still doing the things that you have mentioned. So you're not really comparing the two things that we're discussing. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up there for today. I have, for those of you who aren't really familiar with me, you'll find a link in the video description, and that link is for my live feedback lessons. So those are my lessons on Zoom. You join up, there are free group classes on Zoom, and then there's my email address as well. If anyone wants one-on-one support, please feel free to reach out and we can talk about that. Make sure that the course is suitable for you and you're suitable for the course. So yeah, that's it for now. Take care of yourselves. See you next week, everyone. Bye-bye.